the Audiosmile little British monitor. Is this the best compact powered desktop speaker that you never heard of? That's what we're going to be talking about in today's video. Hey folks, I'm Gene Delasella with Audioholics. We got James Larson in the house, speaker of the house. How you doing, James?
I'm good. Well, I have a little bit of a cold, but I'm okay otherwise.
Well, it's going around, so just tough through it. And I'm glad that you're able to spit out these reviews for us. In fact, for such a small speaker, you tortured me with this review. We have a written review of this little bookshelf or compact monitor. I think your review was close to 8,000 words, if I'm not mistaken, but it took me, it took me a while to peer review it.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but I wanted to do, I wanted to do the speakers justice because they're truly really good speakers. So
I've never heard of the brand. I got an email from them months ago, and I'm like, I looked at it and I thought it was kind of interesting. I sent it to you, and you were interested. So I said, why not give it a try? Nobody really knows the brand. They're a European brand. They're not really well known here in the United States, but this is the kind of thing that we look for. We look for unique products that nobody else is covering on YouTube. And I think this product pleasantly surprised you, and you're a very pragmatic person.
Yeah, I mean, you and I looked at their the white papers on the site, like, wow, there's a lot of technical depth to these little speakers, and so we reached out and said, would you be interested in a review? And they agreed, and the rest is here.
Yeah, so let's get into this now. So this is a very compact. It's a two-way speaker, 3/4 inch dome tweeter with a waveguide, 3-inch aluminum cone driver. So here's the interesting thing, James. This is a compact speaker with a 3-inch driver and a small tweeter. Look at how much amplifier power they give you. They give you 50 watts for the low frequency and 50 watts for the high frequency, and it's a linear amp. That's a lot of power for a little speaker like that.
Yeah, it's I think the drivers, they're trying to achieve some low frequencies, so they use a little bit lower sensitivity drivers, so they could benefit from that power. But still, these things are more than loud enough for desktop speakers, so they have a nice punchy dynamic range. Even
that's one thing I talked about this with the Arendal Sound 1528 series. So when you have a speaker that you want to have really deep bass extension, and if it's a small enclosure and small drivers, you're going to trade sensitivity for extension. And that's what we're seeing here. Is this speaker digs down low. It looks like minus 6 dB point is about 58 hertz. That's an impressive bass extension for a 3-inch driver in a compact cabinet, and you have to throw a decent amount of power at it, and you have to use a driver that has a pretty long throw. I think you said it was a max of 1-inch peak to peak on the travel of that woofer, something pretty crazy like that.
I don't exactly remember the X max or the throw. It is a very unusually long throw for both the woofer and the tweeter on this speaker.
So there's a lot of tech in the speaker. It's got it says it's got a crossover frequency of 1500 hertz, 4th order acoustic time align, analog devices DSP. So is this an active crossover that's in this?
Oh yes, it is. 4th order, you wouldn't even be able to fit this circuit in a speaker. You can see the speaker right there. It's so small that this crossover itself, were passive, would be larger than the speaker itself. So yeah,
they're pretty lightweight. The master's 3 3/4 pounds, and the slave is 3.1 pounds. The price on them, since it's European, we try to convert it to US, and that changes based on the value of the dollar, but it's under $700 a pair, roughly.
Yeah, if you had it shipped to the US, it would be under $7 a pair. I mean, under $700 a pair. It's not exactly super cheap for a desktop speaker, but I think it's a good bargain nonetheless. There's the rear panel of the speakers. You can see there's a master and a slave, so the amplifier is just built into one speaker, and it drives the other with the kind of umbilical cord. And you can see it has RCA inputs, has Bluetooth input. You can also have the 3.5 millimeter input. So yeah, it's a consumer speaker. It doesn't have balance inputs, but it has what you need. I would have liked to see a USB audio input. That would be nice, but it doesn't have that. But it's
also got a subwoofer output, and I think when I read your review, I remember reading when you use the subwoofer output, it engages an automatic high pass on the speaker, right?
Yeah, so it has And you can see it on the boundary compensation dial on that. Yeah, so it high passes the speaker at 100 hertz. We'll get a look at that in the measurements.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's a picture of the amp on the back plate, and there's a picture of the back of the tweeter. It's a little like neodymium, like a slug there. It's a lot of power for such a small, like 3/4 inch tweeter. You can see that 3/4 inch tweeter has a pretty beefy surround for
it. Does, and I remember reading your spec. You said it has a self resonance of like under 300 hertz, which I've never heard of a small tweeter like that having such a low self resonance. But let's assume that's true for the moment. The advantage of that is you can cross this tweeter over at a lot lower frequency than a typical tweeter. Typical dome tweeters may have a self-resonance of 1,000 hertz or 900 hertz. So this allows a more effective coverage of that tweeter with the waveguide, right, James?
Yeah, this speaker has an unusually low crossover point, which has its advantages. But of course, with an unusually low crossover point from the tweeter to the woofer, you need a tweeter with a low resonant frequency in order to like not blow itself up. We're trying to play low, and this has that, so it was necessary for the kind of design that we're going for. There's like kind of a 3D rendering of the internal of the cabinet, and there's a picture of the woofer. It has a pretty big magnet for that 3-inch woofer. The beefy surround, very beefy surround for the 3-inch woofer.
Looks like almost like a subwoofer driver, like a little subwoofer driver.
Yeah, and you can see the cabinet has an unusual port. It's a slot port, a shaped slot port that goes at the top of the cabinet. It's really cool what it does. I don't want to get into the gory details of the technicals here. There's a white paper on Audiosmile's product page for it. It's really cool, and well, you'll see. We'll show the readers or viewers why it's cool later. We have a slide that kind of
the cool thing about this driver, guys, keep in mind it's a 3-inch driver. The spider on the driver is almost as big as the cone area, and that's probably got close to a 1-inch voice coil if I'm seeing the proportions right. So this thing is capable of handling a decent amount of power.
Yeah, it's for a 3-inch driver. It's beefy. There you can see a picture of the slot ports on the top of the speaker. It's an unusual port system, but it works really, really, really well, as you'll see later on. Yeah, it's just really good. But we'll show that.
I love the stands. So the stands, they make the stands, right? Audiosmile makes the stands.
Yeah, Audiosmile manufactures the stands as well as the speakers. And right now, you can actually, if you buy the speakers, normally they're like, I think, $50 or $60. But if you buy the speakers right now, like a limited time, you can get the stands for free. So, yeah, so they're decent stands and they work well. So like, yeah, you can get them for free right now if you buy them.
They just look really cool together. I mean, the aesthetic works and it has a little tilt on it, which is great. Is that adjustable? Can you adjust the tilt?
Oh yeah, so you can. Yeah, it's a wide range of adjustability tilt. Yeah,
very cool. That looks great on your desk.
Yeah, it's a nice looking speaker. Here's a picture of the measurements we took. I mean,
man, that's good.
That's really good. It's really good. Right, super good. It's just a very, very neutral speaker. There's nothing here to complain about at all. Maybe the treble. I don't think my measurements quite exactly match Audiosmile's, and the treble, like upper treble, is a little bit tricky to record sometimes. But other than like the slope at like way what of like 16,000 hertz, 17,000 hertz, it's like
right.
It's just beautiful. It's a beautiful flat as a pancake response. Really, really.
Well, I remember you saying in the review, because of the neutrality of the measurement, you could actually use these as monitors, like real in a recording studio with a subwoofer, of course, but you can use these as for monitoring and mixing music.
I think that one of the inspirations for the speaker was that what was that BBC monitor. There was a really small. They were very popular a long time ago. I can't remember the name of them, but they were meant to be like they were meant to be like in a truck or something, or like a portable mixing like studio speaker. What is the name of that speaker? That escapes me at the moment. And these you could carry, and if you wanted to, like, if you had to mix on site somewhere, right, you could use these speakers for that. So like they have their own amplifier, right? They have a perfectly neutral response. They have a good build quality, right? There's like, yeah, these are like almost like an homage to that speaker. Like, cool. I'm sure these are higher performer speakers than that ever was, though.
Oh yeah, modern tech. Look at that. That's just a beautiful response.
Yeah, there's just nothing to complain about here. That's just like, that's almost ideal. It's just so good. It's so good, right? It's like, I don't know what else to add. That's exactly what you'd hope to see. Like very linear dispersion. The well, for viewers who don't know, that this is a picture of the frequency responses, both on and off axis, right? And they have a very, very good correlation to each other. It's just really, really good.
That just means you're going to get very consistent sound over a wide listening area too, right?
Yeah, what was telling us is that it's a very accurate sound, and it holds the accurate sound over a very wide angle. It doesn't change. So like even the reflections, if you have a very reflective room, well, the reflections, unlike a lot of speakers, will have a very good match with the direct axis sound. So it just sounds the same. It sounds accurate no matter where you are.
So before we get more into this, I want to remind people there's a very detailed written review where James talks about his listening impressions. And just to throw a few quotes from James Larson here, the Audiosmile LBMs provided a sublime listening experience. I mean, this is James Larson saying this, guys. The Audiosmile LBMs produced a strong center image and a very accurate account of the recording. I mean, this is just really good praise to hear about the speaker. And last one, the LBM Soundstage gave this game a frightening sense of immersion. You were playing, I think, I don't even know, Night Swim or something like that.
Yeah. It might have been a video game or something.
Oh, video game, GTFO.
Yeah, great game. Yeah, GTFO. It's an acronym, obviously. Yeah, it's just a good speak. And what's unusually good about it is that it gives you a good imaging, good soundstage on a desktop. Now, desktops are usually very compromised.
It's hard to get imaging on the desktop, yeah.
But if you set these things up right, yeah, it just sounds great, even on a desktop environment. There's a 2D view of the frequency responses on and off axis, and there's just nothing to complain about there. That's neutral.
Just so well behaved and so linear.
Yeah, it's just accurate. There's nothing to add to it except to say it's really, really, really good.
It's basically like a point source when you think about it, right? I mean,
well, the drivers are so close together. Yeah, it's like the distance, the spacing between the tweeter and the woofer is so close. It's like a point source. And here's a picture. Here's a portrait of the width of the dispersion. You can see you're getting about 60 to 70 degrees pretty consistently throughout most of the band. So it's a wide dispersion speaker, and it holds that dispersion very well, very consistently. Low frequency responses. We measure these a little differently. I don't know what to add to that. It's it's just super linear. You can see
perfect integration with the port and the driver itself.
Yeah, so there's different curves here, and so you can set the speaker to have different types of levels of bass output to compensate for boundary gain. So if you put a speaker with flat bass really close to a surface, right, it tends to boost the bass. And if you don't want that, you can actually adjust that on the speaker itself. And also you can use that same dial to initiate a 100 hertz high pass. So it has bass management. You can see that's that blue line that has a less extension than the others. So yeah, you can just use this with a subwoofer. It has its own bass management, basically. It's crude bass management, but it is.
So if you have a sub and you want to still take advantage of the bass of these speakers, because look, they put a lot of engineering into this with a long throw driver and good bass extension, you could just not switch it to the boundary curve, right? You could leave it on regular and still have them run full range with the subwoofer.
You could, but then you might get a little phase interference a little bit more than you would if you just had the cut, right? And a subwoofer, even like a kind of a small one, is going to have a much more deep bass headroom than this. So I would use this. I would use the 100 hertz cut for these if I were going to use a subwoofer.
Okay. I mean, I would probably experiment, honestly, but I like seeing the woofers move. That's just me.
It's a 3-inch woofer, so it doesn't take a whole lot to see it move. Anyways, here's a picture of the vertical dispersion, on and off axis vertical. So we're talking about up and down rather than left to right. And this is very good. It's very, very wide. Usually you see a big crossover, a crossover phase, interference taking a huge chunk out of the sides, but this has a very wide dispersion with hardly any nasty crossover nulls. So, and that's one of the advantages. I mean, you can read about it more in the review where I get into depth of it, but one of the advantages of having such a low crossover point, right, is that the wavelengths are really long. And so a long wavelengths with such tight center to center spacing between the drivers means this it's just there's so little phase interference that occurs way off axis, and that gives you a very broad vertical axis angle of listening, as well as horizontal. Most speakers don't do that. Most two-way like speakers don't do that at all. This does it very, very well.
So basically what you're saying is you don't have to sit right at the tweeter level. You could sit above or below it. It's very consistent sounding.
And that's I think is especially important in a desktop speaker, because like, I don't know about you, but sometimes I'm not always like sitting like right, with my, in one posture, all the time.
Yeah.
A lot of times I'm just slouching, right? I'm just slouching, and like I change my posture a lot when I'm sitting, right, or am I doing anything at my desktop, right? And so this will have the same sound no matter where you are, vertically or horizontally. So it's a big advantage, especially for a desktop speaker.
Awesome.
There's a picture of like a top-down kind of view of that same like suite of measurements. Like, so normally you get like from a two-way speaker, you get maybe plus or minus 10 degrees, right?
Yeah.
A vertical like width before like things start happening, especially the crossover frequency, which takes a big chunk. Well, this you get like what 30, 40 degrees of like vertical axis listening, right? It's one of the best I've seen from like a multi-way speaker that wasn't a coaxial. The coaxials, of course, can do this easily, but where there's separation of the drivers, this is exceptionally good, really good.
Wow, that is impressive. Is it a port?
Yeah. Okay. Now, I always take near fields of I didn't. The rest of the drivers are well behaved. I didn't include them and our near field responses to not clutter this graph. But here's a picture of the port's behavior. Now, as we said, the port is an unusual design. It is a very, very good, well-researched design, right? And so you see a very clean. Ports always have a narrow band of output, and here you can see that this is a typical narrow band of output. What most ports have that this doesn't is a lot of harmonic resonances. And they can be as loud as the initial resonance, or they can be like maybe 5 dB down, maybe 10 dB down, and they're really good negative 15 dB down from the fundamental resonance of the port, right? This is like 30 dB down until you get to the next like highest resonance. That's like unheard of.
It's like a textbook tune, basically.
It's textbook. It's better than textbook. I've never no textbook port is well behaved. I mean, there's some really good well behaved ports. I think that the one in the Polk reserve speakers comes to mind. Their port system.
That's a good one with the turbine thing. Yeah.
I don't think that was this good. I mean, this is really, really good.
Is this patent pending? I think in the white paper it talks about something about that. No,
I don't know, but there's a white paper on the site that describes the port and why he did. It's an unusual port. It's a shaped slot port that's on the top of the speaker, but it's technically the results are excellent. Really, the best, maybe the best I've ever seen. I don't know. Yeah. Bottom line, pros, like we said, extremely accurate response, textbook. Excellent off-axis response, both in vertical and horizontal. Really good, right? Decent bass extension for the size. We're getting like 60 hertz, right? You'll get like probably 50, maybe a little bit lower in room, right? Especially if you put them next to a wall or in a corner or something. Onboard bass management, that's really good. So you can add a subwoofer. These is really easy without having to screw around with like external bass management. The build quality is something we really didn't go over. I mean, these things are they're beefy. Look at that plate amp. Look at that thing right there. I mean, this is beefy. It's really, really, really sturdy, right? It's an expensive speaker for what it is, but holy cow, the build quality is like it's just so good. It's like, they're basically handmade in England, right? So it's expensive, but you can't complain. The build quality is excellent. Cons, like I wish USB audio would have been nice, but it's not. It's small miss. Summary. One of the best, if not the best, consumer compact desktop loudspeakers in the market. I can't think of anything better, so it might be the best, right?
Wow.
I'm sure there are other very good ones, right?
Statement. Yeah.
And like the design directly addresses some important problems facing acoustics of desktop environment. Like we said, the vertical dispersion, the port, and everything. Performance on the level of a good professional monitors, but design is geared for consumer audio. So we're not comparing this to like pro audio speakers, because it's a consumer audio speaker for just normal people, not people doing like studio work, professional work, right?
But it's good enough for that.
Oh, the sound quality is more than good enough for that. Better than most, far better than most, even professional.
So, is this the only product that he has, or does he have bigger speakers in the audio line?
He has other speakers. They're similar. They're compact desktop speakers. I think he has one that has like a planar tweeter, right? I'm sure it's good, but like, I don't think a planar tweeter would have the width of vertical dispersion this does. So like, I don't know. Maybe we'll have to get one of those in for review. I don't know, and then see what it's like. That would be really cool. I should also add that you can also get these speakers as a kit, so you could save some money. And if you're interested in like getting your fingers dirty a little bit and getting some elbow grease going, you can actually save some money and get this in kit form. And like, yeah, so he sells them and like a kit.
Cool. Very cool.
So
we talked about the fact that it's got decent bass extension for its form factor, but ultimately, if you want to extend the low frequencies, you got to pair it with a good sub. And I wanted you to come up with a recommended subwoofer list here of what's within a decent budget and what's not too big. Obviously, you want to have the right form factor.
Yeah, we were looking at compact subwoofers that would be a good fit for this. And there's recently reviewed the Cont Aura speakers with those. We reviewed the Sub 8, which is a pretty nice little 8-inch field sub. Yeah, that's a decent little sub. Then if your budget is a little more lenient, the SB1000 Pro from SVS, we reviewed that. That's a really good little compact sub. They also have the 8-inch one, the Dual 8. I should have added that, but like, I don't know. I think the SB1000 Pro is probably a little bit better because like,
it is.
Extension would be better.
It's a little bit bigger, but it's definitely better for the money.
Yeah, and then there's the I haven't actually tested it, the Martin Logan Abyss, or we haven't reviewed yet the Martin Logan Abyss 8. A little bit newer. I know I'm due to get some Martin Logan Abyss subs.
I heard them at the Audio Advice Live, and they were awesome. I mean, they were for music. They had them with the F200s. No, not the F200s, the bookshelf version. The B200, I think it was. One of their bookshelf speakers, and they were playing it with the Anthem STR, and they were playing some demos. They put on Radiohead and a bunch of other stuff that's pretty bass intensive, and the subs were tight. They sounded really good. They used 2 of them. And I just like the form factor of the Abyss. It's really compact. It almost reminds me of like the old Velodyne Mini V, which I love that sub. I wish could still have that sub, but
sure, it's a compact. I'm sure it's. We'll see. I'm getting one for a review, so I'll be the judge of that, right? If it's good or not. But anyways, I haven't done the review. Then there, of course, we're a smaller sub, a little bit bigger, but there's Arundel 1723 1S, very, very, very good sub. Kind of not a big sub. And I think the king of all compact subs is a Sigbert Audio 10D. It's not cheap, but it's like these Audiosmile speakers. It's handmade, but it's handmade in Norway, and it's like that's a really good sub. We have a review of the 10D, the Sigbert Audio 10D. Not cheap, but I think one of the best, if not the best, like the compact subs out there. So competing loudspeakers. We reviewed the Cont, like we mentioned, the Cont Aura desktop speaker, very, very good, but the build quality is not on the level of these. Not even close, right? It's fine for what it is, but like if you want to upgrade, they're better speakers. They're twice the price. I think they definitely justify the cost though, but those are decent for the. Then we also reviewed the Monoacoustic Super Mod Mini. Those are passive little speakers, about the same size as these, and the build quality is you can't get better. They're just a solid block of aluminum basically, but they didn't have quite the performance. The dispersion is nothing like these. It's you need to set those up just right for them to sound good, right? And they can sound good, but they're way fussier with like placement and and all that, right? So these I think
and you need an amp. So by the time you add an amp to that, you're close to $3,000.
Yeah, they're just I think these are better overall as those audio performers, but those look nicer. Those are really, really nice looking, and they're like more luxury products.
Right.
The rest of these are like I haven't really had much experience with. They're mostly pro audio speakers, Genelec, IK, Multimedia, and Full Calls, Shape, Neumann, right? These are all kind of small speakers that you would put on a desktop, but they're geared more for pro audio applications. I suspect they're all pretty darn good. I guess the exception is KEF. The KEF LSX2 is a consumer speaker. I'm sure it's pretty good, but it's quite a bit more expensive. And is it better than these? I don't think they would be. I think they might have more features on the electronics, but are they and I wouldn't trade these for some KEF LSXs, although I'm sure those are really good speakers.
Sure.
So yeah, that's the Audiosmile Little British Monitor LBMs. So yeah.
Cool speaker, James. I'm glad we did the review. It gives you guys a new brand to look at. And I'll put some links in the video description below. We don't have any affiliate arrangement with them, but if you decide to buy them and just drop our name, we'd love to, to give feedback to the manufacturers. We appreciate that. James, thank you for sticking all of this time and effort into this little speaker. I can't believe how many words you committed to something that's so small, but it was worth it because there was a lot of tech that was packed in there. It was a pretty innovative product. And overall, I'm happy that we did this review.
I'm glad to do it. This is exactly the sort of thing I like to review, why I like to do what I do, because I like to, little gems that nobody really knows about, but they're so good, they deserve way more attention than what they're getting. And that's precisely what these are.
Cool. All right, guys, we'll check the links below. Check out our review. I'll put it in the video description. Guys, if you like this video, please hit the thumb up, hit subscribe. Don't forget about our Patreon channel at patreon.com/audioholics. We appreciate your support. You get direct access to me if you want to suggest video topics. And until next time, my friends, keep listening.